A sniper took a hit, and unfortunately, not only did he the suspect, but he also ended up the innocent. And that was one of my worst cases as well. And he comes up to me, he goes, "F you."
In the world of policing, there are various career paths officers may take, ranging from patrol to specialized units like SWAT or even detective work. However, there are a few who willingly immerse themselves in the harrowing realm of crimes and crimes against. Our guest, who has dedicated over 3 decades of his life to law enforcement, navigating some of the most emotionally charged and complex cases imaginable, is Moses Castillo, a true subject matter expert in these deeply troubling fields. You see, Moses' journey is one of unwavering commitment and exceptional skill. As a decorated veteran of the Los Angeles Police Department, he spent the majority of his career delving into the darkest corners of humanity, bringing justice to the most vulnerable. His tenure included pivotal roles in the exploited unit and the Internet Crimes Against Task Force, where he made an indelible mark with his expertise and dedication. But every career has its challenges, and Moses is no exception. He faced the daunting specter of internal affairs during an investigation into an officer-involved shooting, a case that plunged him into the depths of scrutiny and introspection. So today, we have the privilege of delving into Moses' illustrious career, exploring the highs and lows, the triumphs and tribulations. His experience offers invaluable insights and lessons that resonate far beyond the confines of law enforcement. So without further ado, let's dive into this compelling conversation with Moses. Welcome to Internal Affairs, a police podcast. Let's go. Okay, here we go. We are Code 6 at scene with Moses Castillo, mi querido hermano. It's been a while, man. How are you?
Doing well, thanks, bro.
Look, man, we're always going to have a great conversation with the guests, but you just bring like a different angle considering you've done a lot of these crimes, missing persons. We'll get into all that. But before we get started, a quick shout out to my sponsors. First and foremost, as you may know, I'm a law enforcement instructor with the Savage Training Group. No death by PowerPoint, no check in the box. It is continuing education when you come to our classes and you take that back to our agency. Please check them out. We also have the briefing room. It's a quick 90-second briefing training made easy for your agency. Again, if you have any type of questions or situations that you might want to know with police functions, please definitely go check out the briefing room. Your agency can definitely use their website. Also, we have Code 4, all challenge coins, patches, or any of that sort. They're the ones to go to. And last but not least, the Titan Group, a professional investigation firm where they'll do really complex investigations, including workplace, internal affairs, also for firefighters, along with police officers, and many other types of investigations. So, without further ado, let's get to it, man. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, please rate the importance of internal affairs and tell us why.
I think it's a 10 because I think it's a matter of public trust, and having that public trust goes a long way, because if the public doesn't trust us, we're not going to be able to solve crimes. We're not going to be able to get intel. They're not going to call us when they need us. So I think it's very important, because without it, I think we're not going to have the public's trust, and we're not going to hold officers accountable when we do mess up. Let's own up to it. Let's face the music, as they say, and face our consequences.
You've been around for about 30 years, and this self-accountability, isn't that kind of hard for officers sometimes to do, especially when they have an IA on them, for that matter?
Well, absolutely. When we get that phone call or that email that IA is wanting to speak to you, we get that, oh crap, here we go. But yeah, I mean, it happens. We know it's part of our job. We know it's part of our duties. People are going to make complaints all the time. Sometimes they're legit complaints. Oftentimes they're not.
Yeah, very, very true. I do know when you start mentioning public trust, it's almost as if I want to believe it 100%, but work in internal affairs, a lot of times when the public makes a complaint against an officer for what they believe to be alleged misconduct, once we investigate it, we send them a letter. And guess what, man? When you send that letter, they never call. They never, ever call or want to find out, like, hey, how did you guys reach that conclusion? Or can we have a talk about that? So I always have this, I shouldn't say it's a problem, but I would hope that if the public wants to trust the police department, not just LAPD, any police department, at the very least, call and find out what's going on. But some people just don't.
Yeah, that's why I think the alternative complaint resolution program was a great program, because that allowed officers and the person making the complaint to come out, have a little powwow, have an understanding, and then when they hear the officer's perspective, then they go, okay, well, you know what, now I get it. Or sometimes they get to a point where agree to disagree, but at the very least, it allows the officer an opportunity to explain themselves to the individual directly, face to face, and let them know, hey, when I pulled you out of the car, it's because of this. Your hands were going to the waistband, or there were, you get to explain yourself, and then once you hear the officer tell the story or why, many times they become, okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah, no, totally 100% with you. Police mediation to this very day is still something kind of new. It's not happening as much, but yeah, the ACR, the Alternative Complaint Resolution, which I've done plenty, as long as you're familiar with them as well, and I appreciate that. Finish this sentence for me. As an internal affairs investigator, my job is to
go wherever the truth leads you. If the truth leads you that, yes, there was some misconduct, then we go there. If that misconduct leads to a crime, then we go there as well. But if the truth leads you to that the officer did nothing wrong, then we must also go there. So as an IA investigator, the job is to go wherever the truth leads you and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Do you feel sometimes that even though wherever the truth leads you, is there any pre-notion biases or some expectations, maybe?
Well, I could tell you that from experience, from watching it from the outside in, depending on your rank in the LAPD, we're talking about LAPD because that's where we're from. If the higher the rank, the different approach they're going to have. Oftentimes, the higher the rank, it's more of a, hey, how can we help a brother or sister officer out? Because it matters. But if you're P2 dog and you're at the bottom, like they say, burn them to learn them, and so yeah. So I've seen that, and that's the honest truth. I've seen complaints get quashed depending on the rank of the officer. The higher it is, the more likely it will get quashed. But unfortunately, so in those scenarios, obviously we're not seeking the truth. We're just seeking ways to help a brother, sister officer out, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah, it's. I'm here to tell you, it's not just LAPD. I can tell you that in hearing other agencies, because I teach for a Savage Training Group, and our internal affairs course, we listen to a lot of other agencies up and down the state of California where there is that double standard. It's. I mean, if we're going to be transparent, let's keep it real. And you're 100% correct on that, where you feel as though if you're a command staff officer, chances are if you commit the same allegations that are being levied against you compared to a young police officer, there's probably going to be a different outcome.
Well, absolutely, and that's the shame, because talking about public trust and transparency, well, I think internal affairs should also gain the trust of the police officers it polices, and there is none because of that.
Yeah. And for many other reasons, that's what we're called, like the rat squad and the dark side and all that good stuff. And, I kind of always wonder, how is it that we can get rid of the stigma? So my thinking is, if we have this podcast to talk about these, these type of issues, challenges, maybe we can get rid of that stigma. Who knows? We'll see. Anyhow, let's move on to a trip down memory lane. So okay, you're in the academy in November of 1991. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was actually Chief Darrell Gates' last graduating class, so that's very special to me. Yeah.
I beg to ask, is it because he was loved? He was a really good chief, or?
You know what? Like I said, I actually enjoyed him in my tenure because I actually was a reserve first back in October of '89. And so I was very fortunate to have 2 graduations for him. And one of the very most memorable memories I have, my mom unfortunately died by the time I went sworn, but she was able to attend my Reserve Academy graduation. And there is, Chief Gates talking to a lot of the media, a lot of folks. And my mom was sitting there all by herself and minding her own business. He actually excused himself from the crowd and walked towards my mom and greeted her and said hi to her and welcomed her. And when I went up to my mom, and my mom didn't speak any English, I go, "Mom, do you know who that is?" I don't know. She had no clue who that was.
You don't say.
But yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? But I saw the chief do that, and I go, "Man, that is really cool," and that left a lasting impression. Fast forward to the sworn graduation, which was after the riots of 1992. When he called my name to give me my diploma, he said, "Moses, did you bring the tablets with you?" And I said, "Chief, they're in my heart." And he chuckled and saluted, and that was it. That was pretty cool. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So I think that's going to be the last true chief that the department will oversee.
Yeah, the department's gone through a lot. That's for sure. Ever since Chief Gates. Hey, look, you mentioned the Elliott riots. This is one of many reasons why I love having old school, veteran guests to come on the show. You got to tell me, man. So here we are, the 1992 riots. We were talking about this before we started recording that you were in the academy, right? And the verdict comes out.
Yes.
Talk to me. What happened that day?
So back then they had a 30-day ride-along program for the recruits in the academy. So we already had completed 6 months. Now we're at the 30-day ride-along program, and my TO was a 30-year street cop patrol out of Hollenbeck, where I went to Hollenbeck. Obviously, the riots broke out in the south end, but we all got dispatched and we all went. It was crazy. I'm thinking, they told us that, don't worry, we'll never get activated, because they activated us right away, A and B watch. And we're the only second class in the history of LAPD to get activated. The first class was the Watts riots. Whoever was in class during that time, they got activated to go out there. And then 1191 is the second academy class that got activated. So that's pretty crazy.
What were you thinking?
Dude.
Did you go home, and what did you tell?
Well, I lived by myself at that point, but I had family. And back then we had pagers, right? My pagers were going off 911, like call home, 911, call home. And I couldn't call home. What the heck? And I had to go find a payphone to call home at that point. And so obviously I couldn't do it. So so they were really scared. Like, what the hell's going on? But the whole city's burning down. And my TO, God bless him, he had the shotgun ready to go, and he would never let me go with him to clear a business, because he said, "Stay here, guard the cart, guard the patrol car." And they teach us never to separate, but he took off and did the clear, and that went on for a while. But I'll tell you a quick story. After that, months later, I ended up going to his house for a barbecue, and we were sitting at the table. Him and his wife were there, and then he went away to the grill, and it just left his wife and me at the table. And she says, "Hey, did Fred ever tell you that a gangster stole his patrol car in a traffic stop once?" And I started laughing. I go, "Oh, that explains it, why he wouldn't let me leave the patrol car." That's just because he never heard the end of it. And cartoons went up, and if you're familiar with Hollenbeck, they were infamous for these cartoons, and so I felt better. But yeah, man, that was something that I was like, man, am I going to get beef because I'm separating from my partner? But now I know. But anyways, that was a funny story.
Having to reflect on it, you're gonna get an IA.
Yeah. Now, exactly. Now I'm gonna get a phone call. Hey, we're gonna open an investigation because you didn't stay with your partner. You
separate from your partner.
Yeah, exactly.
And all we're gonna say is, hey, that's out of statute completely. So. What a great story. You know what? He probably never knew. And I'm sure he got clowned. Oh, yeah. And he's like, you know what? We're not doing this again. This is not happening.
No, he was old school TO. And I got to tell you, one time he dinged me for a traffic stop where I allowed my gun side exposed to the female violator signing the ticket, and the way he brought it to my attention, he slapped me. He slapped me upside the head. He said, "Don't ever do that again. What you do wrong?" And then I said, "Oh yeah." So yeah, come on, mijo. I don't want to get you killed. So I appreciate that because now he called me mijo. You know, he saw the father son kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah. I don't think we could do that nowadays.
No, probably not. Before we leave the LA riots, the only other question I have is, were you guys like informed about it? Did you guys know when you were in the academy, or is this just something that you kind of woke up and said, "Oh, shit, you know what? Here's the verdict," and next thing you know, your pager's blowing off?
Dude, no, I was actually just finished roll call, and it was very intense roll call. You could feel the tension, and everybody's voicing their complaints and arguing with the watch commanders and all this stuff. And as we're downstairs in the car getting ready to start our watch, it was a PM watch. We hear that the verdicts came down, not guilty, and a lot of the officers, not guilty. But within minutes of that verdict not coming in, all the radio calls started coming out. Boom, officer needs help, officer needs backup.
Shots fired.
Looting, fires, PAB is under attack. And it was like, whoa, this is that's
like
crazy.
A movie.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
Man.
And but I'll tell you what, compare the 1992 riots to the George Floyd, no comparison, because 1992 was isolated just to the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
George Floyd was not only nationwide, but it was international. Germany went crazy, and Europe went crazy. And so anyways, I always tell folks, I appreciate, although in the 1992 riots, there were several hundred people that were injured and killed. I forget the number, but it was a high number.
Mm-hmm.
There were people were killed. The difference being is that because people were being shot at and really hurt. Here, thankfully, there was no shots being fired at anybody that I heard or know of, and I think that was the big difference. But nonetheless, this was the worst George Floyd because it changed how we do policing. It changed the attitude towards police officers, and I don't think we've made a little headway, but we have long ways to go to bring it back to where people actually love the police. I do believe it's specific based on your location, and if you live in a community that loves and supports the police, you're going to see crime down. You're going to see police do their thing. When you don't appreciate the police, you're going to see crime go up. You're going to see police not take the initiative, because nowadays police officers are afraid not only of, when I was in the academy, they taught us to be afraid of or to be careful with gangsters and juveniles and women suspects, because we would always put our guard down with women suspects or juveniles, and the gangsters, obviously, for obvious reasons, be careful with them. But now, not only do we have to worry about gangs, juveniles with guns, and then females, we have to worry about our own chiefs, our own DAs. They're coming after us, and that's the reality of it. And that is something that I want to really sound the alarm for all of us that are retired, that we could speak our mind. I think it's our duty to speak up. It's our duty to sound the alarm and say, hey, we got you, brother and sister officer. Don't give up, because we still need good police officers. I mean, I know just recently LAPD was saying that they had the highest applicants.
Yeah, in 1 month.
In 1 month,
January.
Which I'm a little suspicious on the timing of it. It's funny how Chief Moore is on his way out, and now the numbers went up. I don't know if that's a correlation or not, but nonetheless, we still need good police officers. So it's a great profession, but I would ask you to enter it knowing that you're going to be walking on eggshells for the rest of your career until the day you retire.
Very good advice. When I think about when you said about we have a lot of work to do, I always say this is that there's over 18,000 police agencies in the United States. You can kind of quote me on that. Do your research, call my bullshit if you will.
Fact check.
But fact check me if you want. But I know it's somewhere around there, and I want to say there's about north of 800,000 sworn peace officers. And so when you look at it from, that 50,000 feet view, or bird's eye view, if you will, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do. You and I didn't know anything about Minneapolis. I've heard of the city, but we didn't know anything about their police department. We certainly didn't know anything about Kenosha. We didn't know anything about Ferguson. And so, yes, is there corruption? Is there a culture where we need to get better. Absolutely. So I'm with you with that, where our voices need to be heard. And part of that corruption is not so much how we treat the community members, but it's also within, which is the reason why I decided, again, for many reasons to have that. But I appreciate all the advice. I do know that you ended up at Hollenbeck, and I'm going to get some heat for that from my Hollenbeck alums in LAPD. And then 21 Jump Street. What was that like?
Oh, man, tell you, that was pretty wild. I was thinking about that. If 21 Jump Street, the school bike program, where an officer poses as a high school student, and to see who's selling dope to the kids or who's selling dope on campus, and then we round them up after the semester, and it is pretty wild. I'll tell you this much, that it got so dangerous for me out of Van Nuys High School that they had to pull me out, because the word on the street was that they were going to kick my ass because they suspected I was a cop. And somebody just said something that was false, not true. They said that, hey, man, I saw his badge and his gun. Not true, because we're actually trained not to carry our badges, not to carry our guns, so I never did. Somebody just said that just to, F with me. And but they took it to heart, and the word was, hey, they're going to invite you to a ditching party, and at the ditching party, they're going to kick your, what. And so I didn't go.
You up.
Yeah, I tell you what, I didn't go to the ditching party, and I went back to my detectives, and I said, hey, this is what's happening. So they pulled me out, and I went to another dangerous school, which was West LA. I went from Van Nuys High School to West LA, and what made West LA High School very dangerous is that all the kids from the South End and Rampart were being bused to West LA, and I was getting 18-streeters, MSers, and it was just crazy.
Wow. Oscar-winning performances for all of you who have done that assignment. And like the kids say nowadays, you were going to catch hands.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
Many hands.
And we made some, we made some very interesting buys and some good capers out of it. And funny story, so one of the kids I didn't arrest, I ended up seeing when I was on patrol in Hollenbeck. He was bagging some stuff at the local Ralph's Market in Hollenbeck, or Food for Less, whatever it was. And he saw me, and I saw him. He goes, dude, how come you never arrested me? And I said, oh, because I liked you. But I thought that was funny how he said, dude, when I found out you were a cop, I was scared. I thought you were going to come after me. But, he actually never sold me the dope, but he used dope in front of me, so I really couldn't. But in his mind, the fact that he used dope in front of me, that would have been enough for him to be arrested. But it was people that actually sold the dope to me. Those are the ones that went. So, But anyways, I thought that was pretty funny.
Interesting. You just touched on applicants that we think that are in January was the highest number of applicants. Well, you worked backgrounds as a police officer 3. That would be normally in a field training officer. So you got promoted. And interesting you say that. I've never heard. You're the IA of applicants.
Yeah, I was. Because you know what? They always tell police applicants when you're in the academy, they say you're in a continuous background. Even after you graduate for your whole probation. So we will come to you at any point. And sure enough, at the tail end of our academy class, sometimes backgrounds came in and said, they'll call somebody's name and say, Haddon Books. We knew they were gone. So whenever they asked for Haddon Books, and we never saw that individual again, we knew that backgrounds found something or did something. And one day, my background investigator came to backgrounds, to the academy, towards the tail end, and he called my name, but they didn't say Haddon Books. But man, it scared the crap out of me. But what he wanted was, hey, I need an update on your insurance. Oh, that's all I need? Okay. So he wanted an update on my insurance, but it was Chris Figueroa. I think you know him. Chris Figueroa, he actually became part of the post-training cadre. He got shot when he was doing my background off duty. He was a victim of the 18 burglaries, or victims of, there was these people that were getting murdered, shot, robbed at gunpoint at an ATM, and then after that they were dumped on the freeway. Well, he was one of those victims, but he survived. And here I am watching the KTLA news, and I see him on the news being ushered into the RA. I'm going, oh crap, that's my background investigator. So I'm calling the next day. I'm calling, hey, who's going to be working on my background since he's gone? And they said, no, you have to wait till he comes back. I go, what? So
Wow.
I was afraid I wasn't going to make it because he wasn't working on my background, but I made it through, obviously. But yeah, that was pretty crazy.
So that job really, you did it for how long? You did it for, that's,
2.5 years.
yeah. A lot of applicants.
Yeah, I began, I took it really too hard. I was known as the DQ person because I was really good about finding,
Disqualified.
right,
DQ.
finding stuff that would make someone ineligible or unqualified to become a police officer.
Yeah.
And obviously we want the best of the best, right? We don't
Yes.
want somebody that has a tarnished background or questionable background or a criminal background.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my highlights was I actually broke a ATM. Two things. There was a group of ATM burglars that wanted to become police officers. I learned about them, and many of them were DQ'd. And then I also uncovered a hate group, supremacy group, a white supremacy group out of Huntington Beach. My investigation led to one applicant. We had one applicant that I linked them to that group, and then I reached out to Huntington Beach PD, and when I told him I was looking into him, I go, hey, we just did a search warrant at one of his buddy's house, and we took all his, back then, the Rolodex.
Uh-huh.
And so I took all the names of all the Rolodex. I went back to our office. I ran them to see if they were in the system, and at least 10 of them were in the system trying to become police officers. So can you imagine if that would have creeped in? That would have been crazy. So that's why it's the internal affairs of background. That's why background is the internal affairs of police applicants.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Congratulations, you made detective in May of 1999. I do know that you started working on crimes. You ended up at Robbery Homicide Division, which is, we'll talk a little bit about that. It's the elite of the elites, right? And at some point in 2005, you promoted to Detective 2. It took an upgrade, right? Now you're a supervisor responsible in Juvenile Division. And lo and behold, in 2020, which was about almost 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
You said, you know what? I'm done with the LAPD, and I know we're going to get into a lot of what you do now, which for me, it's, and this is just on a personal note, it's one of those expertise that is so needed. Not many people do it, and it comes with just a set of emotions that I can't even imagine. So kind of share with us how this all started for you, because I know you worked crimes, and how did you gain this expertise and all this in this type of field?
Well, when somebody promotes the rank of detective, it's always the goal, I believe, of most detectives to make it to homicide and work the homicide detail. And that was my goal. But my first assignment was the burglary table. It wasn't even the MAC table. They always say they send you the MAC table because it's the most busy.
Major assault crimes,
right? Which is the domestic violence table as well. Well, I just did 1 month of burglary and the D3 over at crimes at Newton Division. Maria Rivas, God bless her, I love her. I owe her my career. She really was super influential as to how my career ended up going. 2 weeks into the DP of being a burglary detective, she pulled me aside. Hey, how would you like to work crimes? I like the way you interact with people. You have good people skills. She sold me when she said, it's like working a homicide. I go, really? How so? Oh, because you have to be very detailed in the crime scenes and very tenacious in how you pursue the suspects and very detailed in your investigations. But when she said it's like working a homicide, I said, all right, I'll do it. And I've been working crimes ever since. And then it evolved to crimes against physical abuse, and now I continue to work crimes, but on the civil side, on the law firm where I work now. So that's how it started. And for those that are working crimes, stick with it because we need great investigators. Yeah. It will take you about 7 years to really figure out, you know what, I know now what I'm doing because it is a very complex. There's so many things to learn. But what I liked about it, because you work with prosecutors from the very beginning to the very end of the prosecution, and that helps you a lot. So get in there, do your cases, go to trial, and sit through the trial from the very beginning to the very end, even during jury selection. Because believe it or not, I believe cases are won or lost at a trial during the jury selection.
Yeah, voir dire.
Voir dire. And you learn a lot from that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never had the desire to do that. Not many of my partners that I know have worked in this type of field and gained that specialty that you have. And so I appreciate that, and I'm sure, whoever's watching and listening You never know, man. There's someone out there that's going to think, you know what, I want to make detectives. And if you work for a large department like ours, then yeah, you can just do that and gain that expertise. Like you said, 7 years minimum just to kind of, get a good flow. And for small agencies, I suppose you can wear multiple hats. At some point, I know, and I don't want to touch too much on this because I certainly don't want to throw this fun conversation that we're having down the drain when we start talking about abuse child unit. Is that something that you...
It's tough. It's tough. Tell me, take a guess. What is the age of my youngest victim? Take a guess.
Oh, I've got to say maybe 3 or 4.
6 weeks of being born.
Oh.
And I'm talking full-blown assault caught on video and audio.
Oh.
Horrible. Guess my oldest victim. And this
12,
is
11?
And this is obviously when I was working adult crimes. As an adult, what do you think my oldest victim would be?
I would say probably in their late teens, maybe early 20s.
No, 92 years old.
Wow.
So we get anything from, a senior, elderly person to a baby and everything in between. And man, let me tell you something. I feel their pain and it sucks. But once we get these guilty verdicts and these long sentences where these guys are going away forever, it's really worth it for fighting for our victims, for the justice that we get. And that little girl now, I still keep in touch with her and her family. She's a beautiful young little girl, and she's doing really well. And that gives me greater resolve to continue to do what we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's a segue into the your IA story. I know we talked about it a little bit. There is some lessons learned. I'll leave the floor up to you and just kind of tell us, what happened with this 128. This IA story that you got.
Well, you know what? It's I couldn't believe it. It was actually happening where I got named into this complaint to begin with. But I only got named in this complaint because there was a lawsuit filed. And it started off, it was a very high-profile case that involved a SWAT officer-involved shooting where a suspect out in the southeast area was holding a baby in his arms as a human shield, and a standoff with SWAT. And SWAT, I guess they call it a sharpshooter or...
Sniper?
Sniper, thank you. You could tell I never worked SWAT, but nonetheless...
Francotirador.
Yes, there you go. A sniper took a hit, and unfortunately, not only did he the suspect, but he also ended up the innocent baby. And that generated the lawsuit. But the reason they dragged me into the lawsuit, I was actually at home at the beach when I got the first phone call. Hey, can you respond to investigate abuse allegations by the teenage daughter of this suspect, the stepdaughter, if you will. And that's how I got hooked into this investigation, just for that role. And for that role, I remember reading the complaint. I actually was the very first person listed on top of the lawsuit, and it said I was the proximate cause of the baby's death. I go, how in the hell can I be the proximate cause of this baby's death when I was actually at the beach with my family and friends having a bonfire, and here we are. But anyways, it was very stressful because I had to go through depositions, and I went through the IA at that point deferred the investigation pending the civil matter.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I did get interviewed by IA once this particular case went all the way to trial. Imagine this. I'm sitting in a room, a conference room, and I'm being deposed by 3 attorneys, and all of the SWAT members are there watching me because there were defendants as well, so they had a right to be there for every. And I'm glad they were there because it sends the message like, we're not going to back down, and we're not afraid of you.
Yeah.
And so it's important if you have the unfortunate circumstances that you are going to go through not only an IA interview or a complaint interview, but you're also going to be sued. Be there for every deposition because that's your right. Because if they're going to talk crap, at least have the gut to say it to your face when you're there.
Yeah.
But at least if you're there, you could actually maybe even, and when they call timeout, you could tell the attorney, hey, ask him this, ask him that, because they're way off and they're whatever. So anyways, but it's very stressful. That's one thing I also want to stress is that if you're going through something that's very stressful, man, you could fall into depression, deep depression, and that's what happened to me. I was taking long showers. I noticed that I started to take long showers, and then I began to realize, well, the reason I'm taking these long showers is because I don't want to go to work, because it sucks now. It's not fun anymore, and I don't want to face this, potential consequence or for something that I didn't even do. And it was very stressful because this was a high-profile case, and it was getting a lot of media attention, and some people were second-guessing me as to my investigation techniques and tactics. I said, no, I was standing on legal ground, solid ground, and everything I did was by the book. And so in any event, that just can be very stressful.
Yeah.
And if you recognize those signs, I know it's easy for us to then fall into drinking or taking extra meds if we're taking some prescribed medication, and that's going to take you down even further. My advice is, have support system. Like, I had great friends and my family, my faith, but stay away from the booze, stay away from any prescription medication. Obviously, stay away from illicit narcotics. That's a big no-no. But, reach out. You're not alone. And, there are resources away from BSS. There's some resources. I know sometimes there's that lack of trust with BSS. Although it's a great resource, I know it's not easy to approach, but there are other resources aside from it. One of them is the Resiliency Project. Have you heard of the Resiliency Project?
No.
The Resiliency Project is run by a great guy. His name is Nick Wilson. He's a retired police officer from La Habra PD. He went through stuff that he actually hit rock bottom, and he's very open about it.
Mm-hmm.
But as a result of it, he created this nonprofit organization called the Resiliency Project, and he offers pure support, confidential pure support for law enforcement and first responders that are going through stuff. And they do amazing work. They really do. And I personally know that many officers from the local police departments have reached out, and they speak really highly of that program.
Thank you. I got some follow-up questions. First of all, when did this happen? You remember this incident?
Somewhere like in the mid-2000s, like 2005, 2006, somewhere around there.
Was this Southeast?
It happened in Southeast Occurrence.
Is this the Pena shooting?
Yeah.
The Pena where there was a standoff and he had the baby?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that quite clearly. It created tragic.
Yeah.
And no one wins, of course not. And you got stuck right in the middle of all that. I got to ask you something. You remember how long you were in this process with Internal Affairs?
Well, it was years because it took a long time. But I could tell you that when it finally made it to a jury trial, it went to a jury trial, a civil case.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge, when everybody rested, the people rested, and the plaintiff rested and the defense rested, the judge dismissed the case. Didn't even allow the jury to hear it or to deliberate. He went ahead and dismissed it. And I'm like, yes. I was like, that made us feel like we were vindicated because the judge saw right through it. And man, and then that also tells me that this attorney, all of his out-of-pocket expenses, he lost big time, and he paid a lot of money on this.
Yeah. How you were treated probably wasn't the best, and I say that to say that you waited years for your internal affairs complaint to be adjudicated. Did at any point anybody give you like an update, or did anybody kind of like kind of walk you through the fact that, hey Moses, this is, now that the civil trial is over, we're going to, get the admin going, do the compelled.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the punishment is the process. It's not the actual penalty, even though there might not be any penalty, but the treatment, we can always get better. And I was just wondering back then, you're talking about almost 20 years ago,
Right.
What was it like?
Well, you know what? On that particular case, I do believe I had good support system from my local chain of command. So that was really good because what was questioning me, what they were challenging on my part, was also my techniques and approach on interviewing the female victim. And so, had they had found any of those to be true, it could have tarnished my career for forever. Because, as you know, once you're found guilty of something, now you may be eligible for the Brady list, and that's a career killer right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, and definitely didn't want that.
Yeah.
But so that was something that was very, something I was really concerned about.
Yep.
And and so I actually remember going to my homeowner's insurance, and I bought the umbrella insurance because I wanted to make sure I was fully covered in case they went after me personally.
Yeah.
So those are the things that come to mind. Like, man, these are all stresses, and I try not to stress, my spouse about this or my family. So
Yeah.
I kind of kept them shielded from this as much as I could. But yeah, I mean, it carries on. But if I could also just add a little bit to, other investigations that I went through, I did feel like internal affairs and the other cases were really out to get somebody. I mean, whether it was me or the other parties involved. And that's what hurts, because whatever happened to, following the truth and sticking to the truth, because once you look into my background and the people that were here and the sources of the information, it's all BS. So that's the part that really is frustrating, and so it just so please make sure you get a great attorney. Jody Gonda was mine for many of my complaints, and I love her to death. She's awesome. She knows her stuff. She's a lion when it comes to advocating for her officers, and I'm very grateful for her. So yeah.
Well, that's good. Hey, lessons learned. I know takeaways, the way I see it, maybe you can add on to this, is we're still to this very day taking IA complaints for filing, I should say, civil suits or claim for damages of excessive force. Maybe that's something that we need to change, because according to your, that's the lessons learned that I get is, here you're named and you weren't even there.
Yeah, and when you look at back at the history as to when they started automatically creating 128s, it's under Chief Parks. Chief Parks started that, and we know Chief Parks, when he became the chief, he was a disciplinary. He was he was a what's the word I'm looking for? I told it, he was a very,
Dictatorship.
Yeah, dictator. Thank you. I was looking for very dictator type, and all the command staff was afraid of him, and they whatever he said went, because they didn't want to get dinged, and he called you out if you ordered the wrong way on the Board of Rights. So yeah, it was like everybody walking on eggshells, pins and needles with Chief Parks. Well, he's gone. Why are we afraid of him now? Just do away with that policy, because it just adds stress. Now, there's some that do it case on case basis. If it's a serious allegation that it's high profile and it's getting a lot of media attention, a lot of public attention, so maybe in those cases, let's do that to be transparent. But when it's really, we know it's on from the, I'm sure you heard about this complaint about the lady that walks into Southwest and says, "Hey, the officer stole my ovaries."
Yeah, you just
right?
bingo. Thank you.
That really, we're gonna take that complaint.
That's a true story.
It is a true story. I wish I would meet the officer that it happened to, because I would love to talk to that dude.
Or whoever took the intake.
Because are you freaking kidding me? You're going to take that? That's what I'm talking about. Have some discretion. That's common sense. And, but,
Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. Well, we're gone, but we're teaching the next generation. At least we're trying to be there for them. And I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing all that. Look, let's get to the other segment, best and worst. Give me worst real quick. And I know you have probably more than any of my guests, considering the assignments you've worked. Just kind of tell me something that really sticks out in your career.
Well, in patrol-wise, it was a Christmas day in Hollenbeck, and I was working with Troy Gatton. The reason I throw him out is many of you will know him, because he was the officer that was caught on video years prior to this incident I'm about to describe.
Mm-hmm.
He went above the rooftop of the projects to recover a shotgun, and when he did this to retrieve it, it went off and it blew off some of his fingers. And that was the first time of something being caught on tape and going. Back then it wasn't viral, but it went, all over the news, and it was broadcast. So fast forward later, Christmas Day, I'm working with Troy. He's driving right off the chute. 3 beeps, code 3, 2 victims down. And on Christmas Day, I'm going, what? Christmas Day? So we race all the way to El Sereno from the station. And the captain of the fire department is outside. Hey, we're not going in until you guys clear it, because last year, same day, their 16-year-old daughter committed. Oh, crap. So this is crazy. So we walk in there, and I see a lady in the bathroom with her head, and the guy apparently took a shotgun, took her out, took a shotgun on himself, and he still lived, but he shot. And so there's about 6 kids crying, and it's chaos. Then I see the shotgun. So I'm thinking, hey, I'm good with kids. So I turned to Troy. Troy, I'll grab the kids. You grab the shotgun. He comes up to me. He goes, F you, to my face. I'm going, okay, I'll grab the shotgun. You grab the kids. But it didn't dawn on me until later that night, where it happened to down the street was an explorer that we knew. He lived there. Again, Christmas Day, he brings us tamales and stuff, and we're waiting for the detectives to show up. And when he's opening up his tamale, I see his fingers, or lack of, and I go, oh, Troy, bro, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean anything by it. So he thought I was effing with him when I said, grab the shotgun. Anyways, that's why he said, F you. Hilarious. And that's one thing, we are cops. We have to have a good sense of humor, because of the stuff that we see, and so that's how we kind of deal with it. But that was my worst patrol caper. And as a detective, I already alluded to it. 6-week-old baby girl. I had to watch 30+ hours of this awful junk, and it still affects me till today. And then a little girl that was murdered by, if you Google Ricardo Utui, he murdered a 3-year-old at a factory, and that was one of my worst cases as well. But what gives me the greater resolve and awesome is that I'm still connected to that family years later, because Ruby, the reason why it's so connected to me is because Ruby and I share the same birthday. And as soon as I found out that Ruby and I share the same birthday, it totally changed the dynamics of the investigation for me. It just did. And, Ruby was murdered on October 31st. 2016. What happens after October 31st? Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and then New Year's. I just couldn't do it, bro. I couldn't celebrate the holidays.
Yeah.
And so those are the tough ones.
Yeah, no, at times I'm lost with words about the only thing that I can say is just thank you so much for doing what you do. I just can't even bear the thought of going through those emotions. So thank you. But let's move to give me something good. Give me something fun, rewarding.
Well, I was very fortunate to be one of the, I think I was the second group that traveled to New York after the September 11th attacks. Although that was a tough one, but it was very rewarding, because what I got to see for the first time outside of LA, how much people from other parts of the country love us. Yeah. I mean, because as you can imagine, not only were we there meeting NYPD officers, but we met officers from all over the country, because many of them went to offer peer support and help in whatever way they can to this horrible September 11th attacks. And I saw the way we were being treated. Bro, we were being treated like celebrities. We had like 2 Catholic chaplains with us, Father Mike being one of them. And so everywhere we went with Father Mike, I mean, it was awesome, because if you're a priest in New York, you get whatever you want. And I remember we were at this restaurant having a steak dinner, and there's 10 of us. Some producers walked in. Oh, you guys are LAPD? Oh, we're going to pay for all that. They paid for our dinner unannounced, and they were taking pictures, and they were. And you got to remember, that was in the middle of this horrible crisis.
Yes.
But they saw something about us, and were appreciative that, hey, man. So that was very rewarding for me, and very life-changing, where I recognize that if you go outside LA, I think it's still true today. I think if I went to New York today and identify myself to NYPD, I think they would say, yeah, oh, man, this is so cool, LAPD, we love you guys. So I'm not sure if you have any similar experiences with NYPD or...
Yes, I played a soccer tournament hosted by NYPD. where myself and my wife at the time, we actually got picked up at 2, 3 in the morning by a patrol vehicle to take us to our hotel in Long Island. And that was a little bit of a haul. It was like 40-something minutes. But yeah, man, NYPD is just as much as a brand as we are. But I couldn't agree with you more, you know, and I guess I'm being a little biased and we're going to toot our own horn here. But yeah, no, it's LAPD is a brand, regardless of what people think, whether it's good or bad. But for the most part, you know, we're we like to call we're all-American D1 kind of product. So
Here you go.
Thank you for sharing with that. Well, look, hey, Moses, you know what? I can't even thank you enough for showing up. You know, you and I have crossed paths when we were both working in LAPD. We're done with the episode. This is we're getting ready to conclude. So I'll leave the floor to you to give advice to anyone who's listening, anyone who's watching. You know, what would you tell them about this profession and the things you've gone through? And, you know, if this is something they want to do.
Well, stay away from the 3 Bs, the booze, the broads, and the bills. They're going to get you in trouble. And if you do that and just continue to have your passion, treat the people you come in contact with the way you want your family to be treated, you're going to be okay. But I got to tell you, just continue to fight the good fight. Don't give up. You're not alone. And you got to just sometimes muster that strength, because I do believe that the only way for evil to prevail is for good men and women to do nothing. So always do something. Get involved. And we're here for you. And the last thing is, just remember to take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of others. For me, it was family, friends, is my support, and my faith. Every Sunday when we go to church, there's this thing called worship. And during worship, I just want to ask God to clean my mind, my heart, for all the junk I see. But I also pray for my victims, the victims that I've helped in the past, the victims that I'm currently helping, and the ones that are coming in the future, because I still meet them in some very dark times even now, even after my retirement. So hopefully that helps, and feel free to steal some of those things, and just, you're not alone, and God bless you, and just watch those hands.
And before we go, how can we get a hold of you, and what are you doing now?
So you could find me at Instagram. My profile is at Detective Moses Castillo. I'm a senior investigator for the Julian Law Group. It's a personal injury law firm, but we also specialize on crimes. So we go after individuals or entities, schools, churches, institutions, whatever the case may be, on the civil side, advocating for victims of abuse and assault. So that's what I'm doing now. My boss is a former prosecutor. That's how we met. So build up your expertise, because now the expertise is now paying off for me. It's paying dividends, and I'm very grateful for that.
Moses, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. We're going to wrap it up. Like always, please be safe out there, and don't forget to go Code 6. Thank you.